Hello, Sarah of SEK Handmade here, and today I'm going to share with you how to bind off in pattern in Tunisian crochet. Let's go.
I have always said that Tunisian crochet is like the perfect mix of knitting and crocheting, and needing to bind off in pattern is a great example of how Tunisian crochet is similar to knitting. In knitting, you bind off in pattern all the time, but in crochet, because you never bind off, there's no need to bind off in pattern. So because you bind off in Tunisian crochet, binding off in pattern is an easy skill to have. So the first thing I'm going to do is complete my return pass, and then I will be ready to show you how to bind off in pattern. When most people learn to bind off, they learn to do it using a simple stitch, often Tunisian simple stitch, that they've learned as their first stitch, which is wonderful and appropriate and fantastic. But when you're doing a new and unique stitch, if you bind off using Tunisian simple stitch for your bind off, then you're going to end up with a row of Tunisian simple stitch at the top of your pattern instead of the whole fabric of your pattern being your stitch. So to make the whole fabric look the same, you want to do what's called binding off in pattern, which simply means you're going to bind off, but as you bind off, you're going to do the stitches that your pattern called for. So this is a crossed Tunisian stitch. So I'm going to work it a combination of the crossed Tunisian and binding off. So for the crossed Tunisian, and this goes for any stitch. So you complete each step of the stitch like you normally would, only you bind off as you do it. So for Tunisian cross stitch, I skip the first stitch and I Tunisian simple stitch in the second stitch. So I'm going to do that, but then I'm also going to bind off by slipping through that loop on my hook, just like normal bind off. Now for my Tunisian crossed stitch, I go back to the stitch I skipped and I Tunisian simple stitch through that one. And then I'm going to bind off by pulling through the loop. And then you just continue on in pattern, working the stitches as the pattern of the fabric calls for, and binding off each stitch as you go. And then you'll see when I get to my edge stitch, I'm just working it like I would any other edge stitch. And then you can see my entire fabric then is the crossed stitch, and I don't end up with a funky little row of Tunisian simple stitch at the very top of my project. And that's how you bind off in pattern.
Such a fun and easy trick that helps make your projects look great. It is always my goal to help you grow confidently in your craft, and I hope that this video has done that. If you feel like it has, I would love it if you would share it with a friend who might find this tip helpful. Also, I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel, like this video, turn on notifications. Thank you again for joining me today, and happy crafting!